Alright, time for another draftphysics.com, debatephysics.com also. But, as stated, it's just nobody. These human beings cannot do reasonable arguments, counter-argument kind of thing. That's why most humans are, imbeciles. I mean, really, they might as well just be classified as retarded. You see them every day walking the street. you know, and the ones that are smarter than that, okay, yeah, they're smarter than that, but smarter than stupid doesn't mean much. It's, that whole relativity problem. Um, but, just so obnoxious and useless. So this channel 321 asshole, and frankly, that's all you are is an asshole, frankly. You're just trolling. Okay, and he gets 4 ups for just a stupid, completely unevidenced, nonsense statement about Jesus walking on water. All right, so he says, but surely you know, my name's not Shirley, by the way, you know that the more you compress a spring, the harder it gets to compress it further. Now, why would I know that? What fact tells me that that's the truth? you know, Beyond the fact that we know that the amount of force is linear, that twice the force, twice the effect, 3 times the force, 3 times the effect. Yes, it's harder to pull a spring, okay, further back because it's holding more energy, but it's not quadratic in any way. There's no indication that 3 times the pulling is 9 times the energy. There's no indication that 4 times the pulling is 16 times the force I have to apply. Zero evidence of that in the reality. So rhetorical question fail. So how can 2x the compression be 2x the energy when the second half of the compression will require more force? More than what? More than 1 unit of force? I put 1 unit of force in. I mean, I fucking did this scale thing 100 fucking times, and this moron types this moronic shit. So I put a weight on it, okay? And let's say it registers 1. And let's say I leave that weight on, it just registers 1. And then I put another exactly the same weight on it, and now it registers 2. It's exactly the same amount of motion of the scale. So the first one created this much motion in the scale. The second one has no problem creating exactly the same amount of motion in the scale. How the fuck is that 4 times the energy? How is that? Oh, that's so much more work. You're thinking that, okay, yeah, it takes more energy to go twice as far because I have to apply all the energy. I have to resist the spring. So I have to do the resistance for the one mass. Now I have to do the resistance for a double mass. And now I have to push harder. But it's not that I'm adding anything more than just another unit of energy. One more unit, that's it. Of the same thing I did the first time. There's absolutely no evidence that springs aren't linear. Okay, except when you go outside their tolerances. So, I mean, how can you type this crap? This arrogant crap. There's no logic. There's no evidence. There's no physical evidence that it's 4 times the energy for me to do this. That this takes 1 unit of energy, but this second one takes 4 units of energy. No evidence whatsoever. Amazing. So the Ian Gosling did 2 videos now pointing out how, look, when I do spring experiments, it's not coming out linear. Yeah, because you do them as a retard. I mean, you don't think about what you're doing and say, well, how could I figure out whether there's a real thing happening here? No, he's too fucking, controlled by his bullshit. All right. So what he's doing is pulling. Okay, so you have a spring, and he's pulling the spring with a weight. Okay, so we're not, we're stretching the spring. No pulls. Anyway, he's applying a downward pressure. Anyway, and the simple logic is to understand that, okay, what's the spring constant? Well, the spring constant says that it's going to be pretty linear for the spring in terms of how much it stretches. So if this is how much 1 ounce weighs, then this is, twice that. The spring is telling you that's 2 ounces. And that's how the scale works. It has a spring, that is calibrated within the range. This is the range it works. If it worked doing more weight, guess what? They would put more weight on the scale. They would make the scale bigger. Okay, why not sell a scale that can do more little divisions than one that can do less divisions? Okay, so this scale goes for 1 pound. No, 16 ounces to 1/2 times 1/2 ounce. I guess it's in half ounce increments. So this does a pound, and that's it. Can't do more than that reliably. And so that's all he did. He did 2 different experiments, 2 different springs that did the same thing. Let's see what happens when I put way too much weight on the scale. Okay, let me see if I can overstretch the spring. So the spring is, it's got a normal length, let's say that's this long. And you could sort of argue that, okay, I can understand that I can stretch it a certain amount, but if I start stretching the spring more than its initial distance by 3 times or something, I'm probably outside its working range. That is where it's going to be consistent. And now I'm going to start stretching the metal. I'm going to be doing something different that's going to create still an elastic effect, but I'm stretching a different part. So instead of taking the coils and moving the coils further apart, there's a point where you start stretching the steel itself. All right, and so he did 2 experiments where he didn't really prove the spring constant doesn't work. He just proved that I'm going to always put way too much weight on a spring. I'm not going to sit there and do something reasonable to the spring. I'm going to do something unreasonable to the spring and see if I can make the whole thing not work. And that's all he did. So I don't, this is that simple anyway, I think. Clearly springs come with very tight coils. You can have a whole bunch of little coils, all right? And you would argue that those springs probably take light weights, okay? And then you have springs with big, heavier coils, and there's only a few of them. And those are springs that tend to be for heavier weights. But there's a range of weight that the spring is good at and weights that it's bad at. And like I said, this has to be engineered to some extent. Now I think this one has a coil, just one big coil, round coiled spring in it. So it's using this kind of spring. Okay, so it's making, it's changing the tightness of this coil over a range. And so I think these springs have a greater range, okay, where they produce a consistent result. So that might be the type of spring you might want to try using if you want to do a high range of force up application. But as I've said right from the start, this stuff isn't perfect. Hooke's law isn't some perfect thing that you can just sit there and say every circumstance it applies. It's always been within a limitation, and you've never tested any of it. So you don't start with a few ounces and see if it works and then see how far you have to go before the spring breaks down in terms of it no longer producing linear results. Now, how long it takes you to break a rubber band versus stretch a rubber band, these are real issues. So how long it takes you to actually do permanent damage to the spring, how much weight you have to put on to do permanent damage, is a separate subject from when you're outside the range of where it's going to give you accurate results. So, there's just, you're just face palming. So anyway, the other thing Gosling said was related to this idiot's comment. He saw the comment and said, "What a great comment. That sure is something, this idea that it takes a lot more energy to compress a spring twice as much." When no, all you have to do is add the same energy. I could do it with a slingshot or something, well, the other thing is the whole rubber band thing is a little interesting, because you really have 2 rubber bands, right? So when you're stretching this distance, you're stretching two rubber bands. So I don't even know if that's linear. So they don't even think about that kind of stuff. Like, okay, well, what am I doing when I'm stretching these 2 rubber bands, at this, it's not even guaranteed to be a 45-degree angle. Might I not be making a mess out of the linearness because I'm applying the force over the area to twice the area. It's not like I'm measuring just the stretch of the rubber band. I'm measuring the stretch of the rubber band over a crooked line. I mean, this distance isn't going to necessarily be perfectly proportional to this total distance that the rubber band stretched. So, well, whatever. So many things. They don't think about any of this stuff. They just make these presumptions, establish that we've proven, even though it's just an absolute fact that they've had 350 years to compile some evidence, that is, crash tests, some sort of tests, and they've done nothing. Physics did nothing for 300 years. It did nothing to establish the truth of any of these axioms. So the axiom that started mv squared was that 4 pounds dropped 1 foot is the same energy as 1 pound dropped 4 feet, and they never established that to be true in the history of their science. And they just do this revisionist, it's nothing more than a religion. It just has these dogmatic statements that they say you must believe, and it's just, the rest of it's all just circular, which some of the other comments get to, so maybe I'll go with them. I don't know. It's just so dismal. People are so fucking stupid. Alright, so then some asshole chimes in. Have you heard about Terence Howard unifying theory? It's not. He's a nut. Okay, his model apparently creates Saturn without gravity. Model of what? Toroids. What? It's not a model of anything. He went on Joe Rogan, so only because, I guess there's so many fringe loonies out there that he'll have anybody on who a bunch of fringe loonies follow. So I guess that's all it comes down to. He says gravity is just an effect of the relationship between elastic and magnetic forces, which opposite directions or something like that. Yeah, isn't that just brilliant? But it's sort of, look, it's, you're the ones that are defending a theory that has no explanation, a bent geodesic, whatever the fuck that is. And there is a certain logic to just recognizing, well, I don't have the camera on, that a sphere in space is doing, if okay, there's an outside world, you can't understand that the outside world from every direction is hitting it in two opposite directions. And that all you would really have to do to say, well, how could I use up the energy? Well, there. All you have to do is recognize that, well, if I make the thing wobble, that is, I make it go this way and then it goes that way, then it doesn't go anywhere, but it absorbed the energy as if it did go somewhere, right? It's the same energy to go back and forth as it would be if you went somewhere in one direction. Just to understand the amount of total miles or velocity you're moving. So your velocity would be the same as if you shot off somewhere. So, if you shot off somewhere, you'd have to use the energy to shoot off somewhere. So if you're going back and forth, you can figure, oh yeah, I'm using energy going both ways. That would mean that more energy is going in than energy coming out because of this. But no, you're all fucking too stupid. A simple answer? Oh, I don't want that. I want a God theory. I want some magical wooey bullshit. And that's all this is about. I mean, I didn't think there was some kind of DNA religious gene or something, but apparently dupe, fool, moron is what you people, apparently your genetic code is. Mine, it doesn't have that, okay? I was fortunate, that gene it wasn't dominant. Fuck. I just can't believe it. Anyway, talking about Terence Howard. Yeah, we said something like that in the other comment. He went on Joe Rogan podcast and explained his theory. Apparently what he did on Joe Rogan was make an ass out of himself. He says gravity is just an effect of the relationship between electric and magnetic fields, which again is just more wooey baby talk. Fields of what? Fields doing what? Fields how constructed? Fields of what? Which opposite directions or something like that. So, yeah, I already read that part. I just hate you people. So I have to comment on every fucking tinfoil hat bullshit theory out there that's completely unevidenced mush. No, I'm not doing that either. Not my job. My job is to attack conventional morons, okay? Not cults. Okay, I'm after the Catholics. I don't give a shit about the uh, 7-day Adventist or whatever the fuck they are. Shit. And then this other one. Oh, here it is, Elizabeth. Hope you have a look at this guy. He says the same thing that you. He says quarks is nonsense. Hope you can have a look. And she doesn't leave a reference to anything. I said, no, what are you talking about? And I'm sure it has nothing the fuck to do with what I've said, okay? I mean, I've made videos just to you explaining this from the basic form. I mean, I've given you every opportunity to understand the simplicity of what I'm arguing. There's just force and there's just matter. The two things are different. The force does all the moving. The force makes the matter move. Fuck you. This is too simple for this nonsense. And I'm sure the other asshole isn't saying that. God damn it. You know, people are just despicable. All right. Does a hammer with a digital readout of joules? Oh, you mean it does the shitty, stupid, moronic calculation that gives you the wrong answer? So if a bullet had a readout that says, I have 2,000 joules, does that mean something? Because it has a digital readout? Are pounds per striking an identical hammer give the result of either equation to be true? What the fuck? Does a hammer with a digital readout of joules or pounds per square inch striking an identical hammer give the result of either equation to be true? Well, you would have to test that, wouldn't you? They're not going to give the same number. That's a fact. So, you know, the two numbers aren't going to be the same number as a number, so I don't even know what to make out of that. You could rephrase that question into something coherent, but I doubt you will. What is there to say? I mean, we have a way of measuring force right here, and it gives you a pounds. It tells you how much weight it represents. So in gravity, you have a weight. That's the pressure, momentum you're applying. And you can do the same thing this way. You can move something this way and create 100 pounds of pressure, right? So it's a consistent way of measuring. So I don't understand why you need to change any of that. You say when I get those consistent measurements that somehow they're lying to me and there's a squared function that means there's hidden energy somewhere. Momentum don't work is what you're saying. All right, that scale's lying to me, okay, that those numbers aren't accurate. Well, go ahead and show where they're not accurate. The ballistic pendulum proves they're perfectly accurate because guess what? You conserve the momentum and you lose 99.94% of the kinetic energy. And, you know, we've been over all this so many times. There's no point talking to you fuckheads. All right, anyway. So really, there's just no, you're just religious kooks, all right? I'm asking you to prove it to me, show me your religion is real, all right? And you won't do it. It's that simple. And you're expecting me, though, to disprove your wacky theory. And no, I can't disprove, well, I can. Frankly, it's physically possible. But frankly, yeah, I'm not doing the Eddington experiment, okay? It's not going to happen. You know, I'm not sending a satellite into space with a camera, you know, GoPro, to do the simple experiment that NASA could have done at any time in the last 40 years. No. But, well, you know, yeah, it's just all I can, yeah. There's nothing to say to human beings except fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. There's a 99.94% chance that any human being you encounter is an asshole. That's what seems, that seems a provable statement. Fuckers. I hate this planet. I can't stand it here. Fucking people are idiots. Lying, duplicitous, hypocritical, double standard, motherfucking dishonest pieces of fucking stinky shit.